AT&T shares slightly higher here in overtime after the company announced plans to acquire Lumen's mass markets fiber business for just under $6 billion. That stock, Lumen, up about 14%. That acquisition would involve about 1 million fiber customers and 4 million locations across 11 states. Joining me now from AT&T headquarters, and a first on CNBC interview, is John Stankey, AT&T chairman and CEO. John, good to see you. So questions about this deal. First of all, how it makes money for AT&T. The street knows that fiber is a big part of your strategy overall. What's the penetration of fiber customers within these Lumen areas? How different is that from what AT&T Fiber tends to have within its areas? And how much is closing the gap going to be a benefit for you?
Well, John, it's good to see you. And I think you hit one of the key areas that we think is really attractive here, and that's these are underpenetrated fiber areas, and they're undeveloped. So it's going to be a combination of us bringing our distribution, our great products, our know-how of how to penetrate these markets, and bring them up from the mid-20s into what we see in our footprints, over 40% typically, and probably a terminal penetration closer to 50%. So this transaction makes sense just on running the fiber business better. But there's also an underpenetrated dynamic for us on our wireless business. We're undershared in many of the major metropolitan areas that we're picking these assets up: Seattle, Phoenix, Denver, Salt Lake City. And so we expect that by doing this well, we can certainly help our wireless business as well. And that's going to be really good. But we do have to invest, and that's going to require us to put some money into it and make sure that we hire people and put some great infrastructure on the ground.
So should investors view this as a new kind of bundle opportunity in those areas where Lumen has fiber customers and AT&T wireless is underpenetrated, perhaps also a churn-reducing opportunity based on what you've tended to see when customers have both fiber and wireless from you?
You hit the nail on the head. Where we have fiber, we win. And when we have fiber, we do a better job of putting both products together. As we shared with you, 4 out of every 10 AT&T fiber customers are wireless customers. And so when you look at our penetration in these markets on both products and services, there's a lot of upside on this. And this really is a story about growing on that asset base and driving new revenues and opportunities in these markets.
Starting just over 20 years, under 20 years ago, we got the smartphone for the first time as this sort of chief sales device for the wireless network. Right now, I think we're waiting for what might be a new cycle around AI in the smartphone. In the meantime, is it really going to be maybe fiber that's a seller of the wireless network as we wait for AI in the smartphone?
Well, I don't know that I'd go that far. I think that what we clearly see and what we're building the company on is a belief that the need for more data, that workloads on the networks are going to increase, and AI is going to be one of those big drivers of those workloads. And so when you start thinking about things like machine vision, taking video and analyzing video in a variety of different ways, whether it's through robotics, it's through autonomy, it's through security, we think those workloads are going to continue to grow. And fiber becomes a really important part of that story, coupled with wireless, because it's fiber that has that symmetrical bandwidth back up into the network that makes it so effective at shipping video up. And fiber becomes not only a great way to service somebody's household or business, but it's also really important to distribute wireless networks out deeper so that you get radiating points closer to customers that increases bandwidth at the handset or whatever camera might be connected to a wireless network. And that's why this infrastructure is so critical moving forward.
Makes sense. So tell me more about how this deal is structured. You say you plan to sell part of Network Co., which is what this will be, to another partner. Are you thinking like 49%? How much financing from the outside might you be looking for?
Yeah, so as you know, we have some different arrangements today. We're going to bring the asset entirely in-house as we go through. We're taking sole responsibility for the regulatory approval and to close the transaction, and we will bring it entirely on AT&T's balance sheet the day we close. And then we will market a portion of the infrastructure into a shared venture. We have a gigapower venture today. you should think about it possibly being something very similar to that, where we have an equity partner who chooses to come in and participate in the network company economics and allows us to take some of that asset off the balance sheet and also have a partner who brings additional equity. And this is what makes it so very efficient to us. It allows us to continue to be focused on the 3-year guidance that we gave at our investor day in December, and we don't change any of that dynamic. We don't disrupt any of the long-term financials that we've reported. They're de minimis in terms of their impact on those things. It allows us to use cash efficiently moving forward and continue on our shareholder returns, but it still drives incredible investment returns for us and puts us in a position in the market where we're not only number one in fiber like we are now, but that gap keeps getting bigger.
Okay.
And ultimately wind up with 60 million fiber homes by the end of 2030. And beyond that, we could be talking about 70 million fiber homes.
Okay. Well, finally, on the consumer, which is credit strapped in a lot of cases right now. I know they're not going to give up their phones anytime soon, but do you see them trading down?
Look, I don't see them trading down. I see probably what happens in a tempered economic cycle, if we were to enter into one, is we tend to see consumers choose to hang on to their handsets a little bit longer and maybe defer buying the new one. That's been something we've seen in the past. And we see them obviously making some discretionary choices on buying up in a cycle. But typically, we see current ARPUs remain pretty stable with our customer base, and we're blessed by having a very, very robust and solid customer base, and I think that's why we've been as resilient as we have in more tempered economic cycles.